Possible Chops podcast is a conversation about the source for inspiration and new ideas behind the drum set. Each episode explores the ins and outs of attaining and retaining a successful career in a very competitive industry.
Studio, PossibleChops.com. I'm your host, Ronnie Gutierrez. We're in the studio with the great Gorden Campbell. Say hi, Gorden Campbell.
What up? What up?
Right on.
How's it going?
Okay, we're finally caught up with you.
Yeah.
What's going on? We've had so many questions about your history, what you're doing, what you're up to, how you got to where you are. Can you give us a little something? How about your history? Where are you from,
Cool.
Gorden?
I'm from a city called Newburgh, New York.
Okay.
About an hour north of Manhattan. So
Excellent.
it's its own little city.
Nice.
Grew up playing at my grandfather's church.
Okay.
So they told me I was 5. I don't remember. I just always remember playing.
Excellent.
I
Okay,
guess
so
it's
what
about
happened
5.
then? Were you
I started playing in school.
okay.
So like back then, 4th grade, you had to pick an instrument if you wanted to be in band. So from 4th grade, I was already playing like at church. But in 4th grade, I joined the band and started taking actual real drum lessons and learning how to read music and bought the drum pad and the whole nine.
Who was your first influence as a teacher or guidance?
As a
wise?
teacher,
Right.
probably his name is Daryl Winslow.
Daryl Winslow.
Yeah, in elementary school, I was in 4th grade.
Okay. Man,
So
you're
Mr.
young.
Winslow, I'm trying to think of the other band. I can't think. It's been so long.
Did it come to you easy, or is something you
Well,
had
I
to
was
really...
already playing. I was already like,
Wow.
I don't remember not playing. So
Right.
from church, I was already playing.
You know, a lot
You
of
know.
guys look at your playing and they watch you and they hear you. What you do and how you play makes sense around the kid.
A lot of people tell me that.
It just does. In Possible Chops, the stuff you're doing is phenomenal. It just flows.
Thank you.
So let me ask you something. Was it early on that you got your eyes together with the playing, like reading and chart-wise? What was
Yeah,
that like?
well, I mean, like I said, I started in 4th grade, and then after that, anything music related, I just was in it.
Right.
I mean, I was singing in chorus, playing in the orchestra, playing in the band. Then I went to middle school. We call it junior high school. It's like 7th, 8th, and 9th back then.
Wow.
And I played in the stage band, which is like a jazz band.
Sure.
So that's when I started playing kit in school. Before that, well, I guess I played kit a little bit, but it was more like either snare or bass drum. And just all throughout, I played in marching band.
Right.
Anything music related. I taught the gospel choir because I play keys too.
Wow, you play
and
keys.
I teach vocals too.
Oh
so,
my gosh.
So when I was in high school, my senior year, I taught the gospel choir.
Okay.
So I would bring
How old
songs in
were
and
you
play
then?
piano. 17,
17.
18. Yeah.
Wow. What a trip.
Yeah.
Now, Gorden.
Meanwhile, playing at church the whole time.
Okay.
Going to conventions and
Right.
doing that kind of stuff.
Super. Now, like the first real thing that you stepped into, like what was that like for you? You got a call, someone recommended you, like
Yeah.
the first, you played with Earth, Wind & Fire, George Duke.
Yeah.
The list is endless. Your ability, your versatility is phenomenal. You're like one of the cats
Oh, thank
of
you.
all cats. No, truly, I've
Thank
worked
you.
with you with Alex
Yeah,
Sal's band.
exactly.
And bro, you play the room, you play the music. And I walked in
try.
on him in his studio and he's prepping for a gig tonight.
Yep.
And you're just like, that's the cat, man.
We got called for it yesterday.
You got called for it yesterday, and you're
Yeah.
doing the work right now,
Yep.
and that's so phenomenal. But so tell us, what was the first real call that it broke for you?
Well, I was in college at Howard University
Okay. Ooh.
in Washington, D.C. And there's a group called Shy that was going out. And actually, the drummer Chris Dave, we were both there together. He was supposed to do the gig, but then he got on with Mint Condition. He got the gig with Mint Condition. We got it the same week. Like, Shy was trying to get him to do the tour. Because we were all in school together. They put a song out and kept calling the radio station, and it blew up. And they did an album, got a record deal, moved to L.A. It was a whole thing.
Wow.
So that week that they were leaving, Chris got the call to do Mint Condition. So we were somewhere. Matter of fact, I think we were at Blues Alley. We went to see like Wynton Marsalis or something. And he was like, "Man, you're gonna have to do the Shy gig. I'm going to Minneapolis."
Wow.
So Chris Dave basically gave me the layup, the alley-oop.
The alley-oop. I like
He's
that.
like, "You're gonna have to do it." So,
The alley-oop.
you know,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Shy was the first one. We moved to L.A. Well, they moved to L.A. and they brought us out here. We rehearsed out here for months. So that's how I started meeting people in L.A. and that kind of thing.
Right.
Sitting in wherever we could, whenever rehearsal was over.
I love that.
Yeah.
So that is something that is your strength, to go and see people and sit in and make connections, right? Because a lot of guys want to know, how do they do that? how did they get to that place? And so
I think that's the key. Like for me, like I said, Chris gave me the alley-oop. I just had to just dunk it or lay it up, whatever.
But you were ready for that gig.
Yeah. We were setting. But once you get on a gig like that, and then we did a Budweiser Superfest, which is a huge arena tour. We did probably 2 back-to-back that summer of 1993. And there was 1 million groups on there, a bunch of bands. So we all start, on tour, you just hang out with each other. We're all in the same hotels every day, going from city to city on tour bus. So once you start meeting people, you're in the mix now. You know all the sound guys, the front house, the tour managers, the artists, because you're hanging out for months. But if I didn't have that, the way I would tell people to do it is move to a city like New York, Atlanta, or L.A. I think L.A. is probably the best. It's the biggest. To me, it seems more open for everybody to get any kind of gig. But
okay, so Gorden, you got that call and you moved to L.A. And then what happened for you next?
I started sitting there. Well, the first call when I came to L.A., I didn't live here yet. We would rehearse here, and they would have us stand like at the Oakwood Apartments or something.
Sure.
For months at a time. We would rehearse, do some dates, and they would fly us back to L.A. instead of flying us back to D.C. So we were just out here, and I was sitting in everywhere I could go, meeting everybody I can meet. And at that point, Shy was a kind of a pretty big band for an R&B group. So we started people knew us before we even knew them. Oh, you playing on that Shy gig. So it just opened up a lot of doors. I met a lot of people. I think number one, just being a nice person. People don't mind being around. If
but
you can
by
play,
nature,
that's just I guess I'm just a nice person.
You really are. And so tell us, what is it like for you? Do you have to warm up? Do you practice today?
Well, I didn't used to warm up. I used to be able to just walk up and I practiced so many hours when I was in college and before that. And that's why I tell a lot of people too, put in the work before you get here. Not saying that it's going to stop, but once you start touring and all that stuff, it's harder to sit down and practice. And also, for me, I've been here 26 years. The first 6 years, I had an apartment before I bought a house, so I couldn't practice unless I went to the union and brought a kit.
Wow.
So all of those hours I put in before I got here paid off, and then I just started working. So
what a great story. That's awesome. Okay, so what's going on now with you? You just got back in town.
Yep.
And you're recording. You got a new album coming out.
Yeah.
Right.
New solo album coming out.
Solo album
called Conversations.
Okay.
Yeah, it's talking about me conversing with the different musicians. There's a couple of different meanings to it, but also in between each song, I'll be talking to the artist who's playing on there, like Kamasi Washington's on there.
Wow.
Sheila E's going to be on there.
Wow. No way.
Paul Jackson Jr., Terrace Martin, Brandon Coleman.
Okay, so nobody good is on that album.
Right, they all terrible. But in between, we're just talking about the state of music and where we are. We could be just talking about anything.
How fabulous.
Yeah.
Now, Gorden, when you're not playing, you're not in the studio, you're not recording or doing a gig, what do you do for fun? What do you do?
Sleep. I'm always in here. This room right here, I'm here.
Okay.
More when I go home, I usually shower, sleep, wake up, shower.
Wow.
I don't even eat at home most of the time. I haven't been grocery shopping since January, maybe.
That's so funny.
I
can't believe that.
I'm always here.
Yes.
So
you're living the dream, Gorden.
Yeah, I like hiking. I go hiking in the morning.
All right.
And really, I'm probably the most boring musician. I like going and seeing my other friends play. So I'm always at Federal Bar over here in North Hollywood or
on Wednesday nights?
More so Tuesdays now.
Tuesdays. Oh,
Randy Amata and Ronald Bruner Jr. plays.
Wow.
Yeah, that band's smacking.
Okay.
So
I like
that. Yeah, so I'm just out somewhere, but most of the time I'm in here. I do a lot of sessions for people.
Right.
I'm working on something for Mark Antoine now.
Oh, okay.
For his album. I just did Jonathan Butler's Christmas album.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that's kind of one of the main reasons I needed a room so I can cut drums for people.
Right.
And, and once they started trusting me, they just send it. They know the drums are going to sound good, and if there's any musical thing, they'll just tell me. But a lot of times they just let me play, you know what to do. Just
So the stuff you did on Possible Chops, how do you stay sharp today? How do you stay fresh?
You got to practice. You got to still, and it's hard, but I try because I have a set up in my.
Right.
I try to every couple of days just do some. I actually went back to the basics. I've just been doing singles, doubles, paradiddles, flam paradiddles.
Wow.
And they really help. If I do those a couple times a week for like maybe 30 minutes, I notice the difference by the end of the week that my hands are like, okay.
That muscle memory.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of it at this point is just gigging. I gig a lot.
Right.
So playing a lot is keeping my hands up. And then I play at church where that music is
where
like.
the blessing
Yes.
comes, right?
Yep. The blessing comes, the anointing, all that stuff.
Amen.
But it definitely helps keep your chops up because musically the style at most gospel now is almost like fusion. So you got to be able to hear and play. It's almost like a Chick Corea record or something.
Right. We wanted to know about that gospel drumming and gospel performing and chops. What can you give us a little insight on that in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, number one is a misnomer. It's wrong. Like people think that gospel drumming is chops. It's really not. Gospel drumming is pocket and feel.
Pocket and feel.
Yeah. The chop stuff is stuff that people do on YouTube.
Okay.
And it's part of the songs. A lot of songs are written now for the drummer and for the band to be featured a little more.
Okay.
But that's not really what gospel drumming is. If you listen to a real gospel album, there's no chops on there. I mean, I've been playing, I'm 48. I've been playing in church since I was 5. I can maybe I've done 2 solos in church ever in life.
Right.
So it's no place, it's not a place for all that. So people, because they see it on YouTube, they think that's what gospel drumming is.
Right.
And I actually teach a gospel drumming class at MI, Musicians Institute in Hollywood, and that's the whole premise of the class. I teach them the history of where it came from. We're accompaniment to singers.
Wow.
So gospel means spread the good news of Jesus Christ.
Right.
That's through song, through word.
Okay.
So the drummer is not necessarily, you can't overplay over the person singing. Like any gig, really.
Right.
We're accompaniment and we're the foundation. So that's gospel drumming. It's just tight, it's funky, it's really syncopated. So the chops part is like the icing on the cake. If it was a certain song that has space for it or a writer writes a song for that, then you do it. But if not, like if you came to a regular church service where I play at like my church, for instance, I incorporate it a little bit, but it's more about the song.
Sure.
Like if I just went crazy, I would be fired. Literally, I wouldn't make it through a service. You know what I mean?
They bring that hook out.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
it's the Sandman Sims,
Well, Gorden, thank you for straightening that out. But you do have chops. Your chops are amazing. But yet I've played with you, and you play with a percussionist well. I hear you listen because at the end of a phrase, I remember playing and you let me alone, and you really were listening.
Yeah.
And that is really the key of performing.
That's the key.
And playing drums.
And that's part of why my album is called Conversations. Because I'm teaching at MI, also, that's another thing that keeps my chops up. Teaching other guys, I had to be on point in order to tell them what to do. Because a lot of them guys are good. If I'm not on point, they're going to be looking at me like I'm crazy.
Oh, come on,
But no, seriously, some of them guys, so I'm like, all right, I better study.
Right. So great. You stay fresh that way.
Yeah.
Now, Gorden, real quickly, we're going to wrap up because I know you got stuff to do. How do you and how would you share with some young guys coming up what direction to go, what to inspire them to keep going? Because you know how it is. On your left, it's crazy. On the right, sometimes work gets chopped away by a name guy.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to the young guys coming up? What would you say?
Well, I would definitely say make sure that you're passionate about playing drums or whatever you do, music, whatever, your bass player, keyboard, whatever. Be passionate about it for one, because it's going to be ups and downs. It's not a steady gig.
Right.
But study every style that you can study. For me, I think I work a lot because I know a lot of styles of music. And I'm not the best at any one style, but I know enough to get through it. If it's a Latin gig, if it's a straight ahead gig, if it's rock, if it's reggae, if it's gospel, if it's R&B, I know a little bit enough to get through. So, I mean, for me to be able to work a lot, just being versatile. Versatile is the key. But as a young guy, I would say just stay focused and know at any point it could pop off. I would say really, you have to really live where the gigs originate. Most of the gigs at this point start in LA.
Yeah.
And that's most of the gigs like from Earth, Wind & Fire, Mary J. Blige, Kenny Lattimore, George Duke, Jessica Simpson.
Wow.
I got all of these gigs playing at a club making $100.
Wow.
Somebody was there in LA, because I'm in LA.
Yeah.
And they saw me, was like, hey man, can you do this gig?
Wow.
I did a gig with Herman Jackson years ago, and we hadn't seen each other in probably a year. And he was like, hey man, Jessica Simpson has a couple shows. You want to do them with me? I was like, all right. We were at a $100 gig at Stevie's in the Valley. And then it turned into, well, she liked the band. She wants to do a couple more dates. So we did more.
Wow.
And it turned in, this is 2004, it turned into a tour, the reality tour when her TV show was out.
Right.
And then she came out again and did a country album, and we did all those. So I worked with Jessica from 2004 till 2009.
Wow, that's
like
a
off
run.
and on.
And you did an Idol tour.
American Idol tour. Yeah, but a lot of this stuff is just from being out, making yourself known. Now you can use social media. Like if you post on YouTube, really Instagram and all that stuff, people are getting hired off of doing that.
Wow.
So it's a real thing.
Cool. Okay, we're going to let you go. Can you play a little bit more of what you got
Oh,
going
yeah,
on?
yeah.
And then we're going to say goodbye and let you go.
Let's see. Turn the volume.
Right on. Here we go.
PossibleChops.com is an online drum lesson website that makes it easy to add to your drumming vocabulary from some of the best professional drummers. If you're serious about drumming, do yourself a favor and visit PossibleChops.com. Join today. Basic membership is free. When you decide to upgrade to a pro membership, use the promo code CHOPCAST to get your first month free.